All right, the time is 5 o'clock. I'm going to call to order the Committee of the Whole for May 12, 2025. Clerk Boak, could you please read the roll?
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Spatafor. Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Pelli-Vanoglu. Councilmember Garza.
Here.
Councilmember Cost.
Here.
Councilmember Hussein.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson. You have 6 members present.
Okay, and Councilmember Jackson and Spatafor are gone tonight. So with that, we are to the minutes. Vice President Carter.
You weren't here, so you can't make a I can't.
Yes. So then it would be Councilman Garza.
All right, thank you, Council President. With that, I would move the minutes of the May 5th meeting.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Passes unanimously. Next, we're on to public comment on agenda items. You have up to 3 minutes. If someone from the public would like to come up, now is your opportunity. Please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Loretta Stanaway, resident since 1985, and I'm here to talk again about the budget. I think you guys have made some progress. I think the mayor's made some progress, but I'm not thinking that you guys have gone as far as you need to go. And especially in terms of looking ahead to next year, I think that the time has come and past come for us to look at a foundational difference in the way we do budgeting. It is not going to be fun. It's not going to be popular, but I think it needs to be done. In order to staff the police and the fire and the public service and the parks and rec at best practice levels, at the levels we need them to be at for our safety and security and quality of life, there needs to be deeper digging. We need to eliminate things that are superfluous, feel goods, nice to have, but we don't absolutely need to have them, and get down to only our necessary expenditures for those first 4 departments, and then whatever's left divvy up between everyone else. Things that could be eliminated, for instance, sister cities, facade improvement grants, a very nice feel-good thing, but why should we be paying for the facade improvement grants when we could be paying for a police officer or a firefighter? Neighborhood engagement grants. Our group gets grants, and we love them. We appreciate them. But why should we be getting a grant when it could be going towards a police or fireman? The same way with lug nut tickets, chili cook-offs, you name it. There's a whole roster of things that we could go through the list and come up with. We need to stop doing pilots and OPRAs and TIFAs and tax abatements and funding 85 on Lansing, Inc., et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things that are entrenched, but they need to be eliminated. We need to focus on our core needs. The purpose of a city government is to protect and provide for its citizens, and that is done through police and fire, public service, quality of life goes into parks and rec. Everything else is details, everything else is extra. Eliminate everything we can eliminate and fund those 4 departments at the right levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public comment at this time? Seeing no takers, we are going to move on to our presentations. Department budget presentations. Looks like first up is going to be City Council and Internal Auditor. So I am going to take both of those and answer the questions. So the first question is, what is the difference with our budget for the current fiscal year to the proposed? There is going to be a slight increase in pay, which is for both internal auditor and city council. City council received a raise from the elected officials commission, and then our staff is also receiving a raise. The internal auditor has left us, so that is going to be the difference currently, why we look for a new one there. Are there any rate increases? We don't have anything that has a rate increase. Are there any major equipment purchases? We bought a proper sound system so people can hear next year's budget. Are we able to perform all necessary departmental responsibilities with this budget? Yes, we are able to for both internal auditor and city council. Are there any new initiatives or services in our department? No, for either or for both. And then, has the BSA had any impact on our department? We have had no issues with the BSA system, as I am the final person to approve everyone's paycheck. It is relatively easy to use and quite user-friendly. So that is the presentation on city council. Does anyone have any questions for me on that? Okay, then we are going to move on. That was in the internal auditor as well, which, if you didn't hear earlier, he has left us as of last Friday. So we currently do not have one, and we'll be moving forward with our personnel committee to start the application process and hiring process of a new individual. So next, we are on to LEFA, and we've got Tierston here, as well as a representative from ASM Global, Brian, I think Crow. If you want to come on down. And if you want to make sure the green light is on the microphone, and introduce yourselves, and start with the questions whenever you are ready. Microphone's not on.
Yep, there we go. Sorry.
Bingo.
My apologies. Thank you, President Cost. Good evening to the City Council here, and thank you for allowing us to be here and to speak. My name is Tristan Wright, and I'm the president for Lansing Entertainment and Public Facilities Authority. I have Brian Crow next to me, who is the VP of ASM Global, and Kirby, who is my VP of Finance for LEPFA. And I'll just go through the questions. First question, what is the difference with your budget request from the current fiscal year to the proposed budget? LEPFA's major difference this year is contracting with a third-party management company. And as I introduced Brian earlier, ASM Global. And as I mentioned earlier, he is the the regional vice president for ASM Global, and he is also the executive for the Huntington Place down in Detroit. Letter B, LEPFA is requesting a decrease from the fiscal year 25 City of Lansing contributions of $12,358 for a total ask of $1,439,642. Question number 2, what is the impact on the budget? What impact on the budget will occur with the new outside management company? Based on our proposal that was provided, the ask from the city has decreased by $12,358. Item B, based on the current contract, ASM Global does not cover costs that are not directly related to operating the building, such as capital improvements over $10,000, which is the standard for a third-party management company. This could add to the total of LEPFA City of Lansing exposure, as we will still need to budget for these particular expenses. Letter C, currently with LEPFA and Choose Lansing strategy agreement, there are allocated funds available for capital improvements of $400,000, which is largely utilized for customer-facing improvements. Item D, ASM Global will be contributing $500,000 for mutually agreed upon customer-facing revenue-generating capital improvements to LEPFA. Question number 3, are there any changes in the service that your department is responsible for, and if so, why? LEPFA will have an outside management company running the day-to-day operations of the Lansing Center, Groesbeck, and maintaining the stadium. The services at the Lansing Center and Groesbeck Golf Course remain consistent as prior years. Question number 4, are there any rate or fee increases, and if so, why? Groesbeck will be increasing green fees by approximately 5%, depending on the category, which is consistent with the surrounding courses and still making Groesbeck one of the best values in the city and Lansing region. Letter B, the Lansing Center will be increasing the fees anywhere from 0 to 10%, depending on the departments and categories. This is largely due to the increase of cost and goods. Question number 5, what impact has 311 taken on your department and staff? None. Question 6, are there any new incentives or services that you will be providing with this budget? I guess I will leave this to ASM Global, if you are okay with that.
Good evening, Brian Crow, Regional Vice President with ASM Global. It's an honor and privilege to be with you here this evening. ASM is very excited to be beginning this partnership with the City of Lansing and LEPFA to lead in the venue operations. As Tristan was indicating, for any new initiatives and services coming up in the coming budget year, ASM Global will be managing the day-to-day operations of the Lansing Center and Groesbeck, and we anticipate being able to utilize our core skills and to be able to overall improve operations, to be able to find efficiency, to generate additional revenues in the facility. Most of that will be focused around reviewing food and beverage operations as well as commercial partnerships, leveraging some of our strengths to be able to evaluate the opportunities for sponsorships, naming rights, and things of that nature, and controlling expenses through efficiencies in operations, expense management, operating consistency, and minimizing expenses through some of our national procurement partnerships that drive down the cost of goods.
Question number 7, who are the top 2 largest vendors of your department, and when were they last bidded? Chase Creative, and we have not put that out to bid for as that they are a preferred in-house provider. And we have utilized our renewal contract with them. And then also, however, the audiovisual companies, they either can or provide their own service there in the Lansing Center. So they can use somebody else besides Chase Creative. Gordon Food Services, we do not put that out to bid for as they are preferred vendors, but we do source other providers for deals and product availability. And then question number 8, have you budgeted for receipt for federal grants? If you have, and the federal funds get pulled back, will you still be able to continue the service those funds would be used for, or purchase the item you intended to purchase with federal grants, or cover the staff that the grant was supplementing? We currently do not receive any federal funds, but if our customers who host events are federally funded, could have a challenging impact on events. Thank you.
Okay, so those are the questions. I am going to ask actually the first question here. So I received a letter last week that LEPFA sent out telling all of its employees that they were going to get permanently laid off when this transaction deal happens from LEPFA to ASM. I've been assured, and I'd like to hear it from you, Brian, that the UAW contract that is in place and the workers that are there will not be permanently laid off once your company takes over. It's simply a matter of changing who is paying who.
You're correct. So my understanding, that letter is a matter of law, having to deal with the fact that LEPFA as the employer will no longer be the employer when the transition occurs. ASM Global will hire and retain the majority of the employees that currently work at the facilities to become under our employment to operate and manage the facility. It is our intent to negotiate with I believe there are 3 bargain groups for employees, and we would be either assuming existing agreements or will negotiate either directly or in partnership with LEPFA for continuation of those agreements. My understanding that they have the current contract ends at the same time as the fiscal year this year, and so we'll be working through part of the transition process to address that.
Okay. Are there any other, I've got Councilmember Garza first, and then Councilmember Pelli-Vonnegut.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Council President. I appreciate that question because I was going to ask something along the same lines. I received that letter as well. Now, when in the letter it says anticipated that ASM Global will offer employment to many, if not most, of current LEPFA employees. Now, are you looking at downsizing? Can you explain what you mean by most of the employees?
So we typically, as part of a transition, we come in and evaluate all the different roles in the organization and develop an organization chart. Usually it's very similar to an existing organization chart that's in place, but occasionally there's some changes that we make that we find are better structure based on our experience in managing facilities. And so once we develop that structure, then we sit down, usually from the top down, trying to fill the roles and utilizing the leadership positions to help review and evaluate all the other positions in the organization and then fill those as well. We have a if in fact LETFA signs off on the agreement on the 20th as they're scheduled to, we have a very aggressive transition period between the 20th and the 1st of July. And so we anticipate filling those positions very quickly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Pelly Vonnegut.
Thank you, President Cost, and thank you for being here with us this evening. There was a statement that was made, and I was somewhat aware of it and sort of going over some documents that we had received over the last several months. You had stated that ASM, the capital improvements will not be covered by ASM, only public-facing improvements. Could you please describe what that means? It doesn't sound like, through those statements, that the city contributions towards some of these facilities would decrease, which may have been, the point here. So if you could explain what that means exactly and how that would affect the budget moving forward.
So my understanding, there are no capital improvements, I think, that have been brought forward in this budget. There is a $500,000 contribution from ASM Global as part of our offer and the negotiation for the contract and the partnership. Those will be used to make improvements in partnership with LEPFA that would be generally, we focus on customer-facing and revenue-enhancing areas so that they improve the experience for the customer and generate more revenue for the facility and thus the owner. As is pretty typical for third-party management, as we are not the owner of the asset, we generally do not regularly contribute to the capital improvement needs of the facility. We will work with you to develop a capital improvement plan and work with you to identify funding streams and sources, whether those be revenues, investment, grants, or contributions by the city in partnership to be able to address any capital needs the facility may have.
Okay, I've got Vice President Carter.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Brian. You also mentioned that there would be some renewals for food and beverage and those and upscaling that, and then commercial sponsorships and natural partnerships. So as you're coming into the city of Lansing, are you familiar with a lot of our demographics? How are you building on those partnerships, those commercial partnerships, and then at a national level, national partnerships? So are you familiar with just the overall region? How is that going to be received from our community? What are some of your insights regarding that?
Sure. I'll start out by telling you that I went to school about 2 miles from here, but it's been a while, but it's good to be back in Lansing. I grew up in West Michigan, went to college at Michigan State. I have day-to-day operations in Detroit, so I feel like I have a pretty good feel for the capital area, Central Michigan, and Michigan as a whole. ASM Global also operates facilities in Grand Rapids and Saginaw, Port Huron, in addition to Detroit and soon Lansing. We will certainly, as part of any transition, and really in the first year of operation, there's a lot of knowledge to be gained and a lot to take in and to evaluate to try to identify where we think we can make improvements and partner in the community. I will say that ASM Global as a company has something called ASM Global Acts, which is something that we engage in all the communities that we work in, on how we have a partnership with that community, identifying some of its needs, and through our employees stationed in the location, work to give back to the community. But definitely, any sponsorship value is going to be derived from the community that you're going to be trying to generate that sponsorship from. So it'll be pretty critical to have that understanding of the community in order to be effective. We don't generally come in with like a series of outside national partners and run over local community partnerships. The sponsorships in communities like Lansing are going to be grown from this state, from this region, and from this area.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm just for curiosity and then just for the public, I'm going to ask the question, what sets ASM Global different the difference between you all and then LEPFA. So when it comes to training employees, you mentioned bringing in that foot traffic, bringing in different events, that what is it that's going to specifically set ASM different, the difference between them or you and then LEPFA? Like,
Sure.
what are those?
And I appreciate the question. I mean, ASM Global is really going to be in partnership with LEPFA and then therefore the city of Lansing. But some of the things that you mentioned are some of the key elements that I think really make us successful. We have an incredible library of training activities, both computer-based and in person, that we utilize in our communities. We really focus on growing and developing our employees. I think we're very proud of the fact that the majority of our employees are very long tenured with our company. We really understand and value our employees and how they represent the community, how they represent us, and how they're usually the first touch point of customer service. So we're very focused on those components. We have national partnerships, as well as we take advantage of our size when we're buying things you wouldn't even think about, things as simple as food and beverage products to floor cleaners and toilet paper and things like that nature. Because of our size, we have negotiated really a very aggressive pricing from national and local partners to be able to, those are the types of savings that come to bear on the day-to-day operating expenditures of the facility. We are one of the premier private operator for venues nationally and really throughout the world, and that we've gotten to that position because of our partnerships with communities like Lansing and understanding how our employees matter to us.
Thank you for that. No, I appreciate that detailed response. And then I'm sorry, President Costa, I just have one more question. And this could be for you, Tristan. You mentioned anything over 10,000 that would then be at the expense of the city still. So would anything outside of that be through just city, or ASM, is this part of the 500,000 that you're going to be bringing towards Lansing Center, Groesbeck, and Jackson National, or Jackson Field, excuse me?
I think as Brian mentioned, that initiative, 500,000, is focused on the face-forward type of improvements. So something that has the generating factor to it, something that creates a wow guest experience for those individuals. And it won't necessarily be maybe fixing a boiler or the HVAC or something to that effect.
Or the roof?
Or the roof.
Okay.
But it's something that is face-forward focusing, something that will enhance the guest experience at either three of those properties. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I've got Councilmember Brown, followed by Councilmember Hussein.
Thank you, President Costa, and thank you all for being here this evening. As we've went down this journey over the last, I think, about year and a half and coming to this point now, it's really been about how we're going to reduce the 1.4, 1.5 million of support that the city is providing. So in this new management partnership, are you able to reduce that operating fund given to LEPFA? If so, how long will it take?
I appreciate that question as well. So as part of the proposal response, we proposed multi-year budgets. This what you're seeing in front of you is for the first year and for 26, and so you're not seeing a significant change in the operating support that's going to be needed from the city of Lansing as we begin to transition and bring things online. But we have shown, we show in our projections that over the course of the next, in the 2 to 5 year span, that we are reducing the amount of support that's needed from the city of Lansing year over year. I don't have the budget document in front of me, but that's something that we can certainly provide. It was part of our response that shows that reduction in the operating support that's necessary. I think you'll see that impact in year 2, and then it'll continue through year 5.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Additionally, is there any other strategy, whoever wants to answer this, that we're looking at to help support revenue or funding for our properties, such as different taxes or foundational support? Is there any strategy?
One thing that you'll be seeing before this board, if you don't mind, is we'll be discussing the extension of the LEPFA operating agreement. So currently it is set to expire October of 2026. We have submitted a draft for extension through to the LEPFA board pending their review. But among the items previously, we haven't considered naming rights as part of that agreement and has been with the city. Among the changes that we include with that is including naming rights as an option that pursuant to city oversight and conditions, they would be able to utilize that as a funding source going forward. In addition to the programs that ASM is proposing to implement in their review of LEPA's operations. Overall, looking at the organizational chart, a lot of the main operating structures will remain fairly similar between the City of Lansing retaining ownership of the 3 facilities, the Lansing Center, Jackson Field Stadium, Groesbeck Golf Course. Will be continuing to make an annual contribution for operations and any capital improvements that are proposed in the budget pursuant to the operating agreements. The LEPA will continue to exist as an Act 31 corporation overseen by its own LEPA board. They will continue to have oversight and manage the contract with ASM, who will be providing the day-to-day management similar to the way current management provides services. And so they will be working in partnership with the city, with all of LEPA's existing partners, whether it's Choose Lansing, their various contracts and operating agreements, union leadership, and the City of Lansing as well, in this body to make sure that all of the requirements are fulfilled and that these facilities are operating to their best potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. So when looking strategically at this partnership and contract service, he indicated over the next 2 to 5 years, there'd be a reduction in the support necessary from the city. He didn't have the exact details. What is your analysis based on recommending that this partnership move forward as far as the next 2 to 5 years? What do you anticipate the reduction into our budget funds for the operation of these facilities? Thank you.
Yep. And so my reduction estimated over the 5 years was about $2 million increase over the status quo. Now, one of the things that we might see as part of that is that we take this reduction in what it takes to operate the facilities and we turn that around into proposing additional capital improvements to get these facilities caught up with all of their various needs. Existing management has done a good job, particularly in the past couple of years, seeking external opportunities in partnership with the City of Lansing. So we've received a number of state grants in order to catch up on many facility improvements, but there's a long way to go. ASM's contribution, as proposed in their operating agreement, will help with a lot of revenue generating, customer experience related improvements to really generate excitement. And between this combination, the approach that we put together and oversaw as part of the RFP partnership will present a future for these 3 facilities that really takes these facilities to the next level and operating into Lansing's future.
Thank you. And last question, what is the anticipated level of capital improvement over the next 2 to 5 years to make Lansing Center more competitive as well as other facilities?
Yep. So in the proposed budget, what we have is we incorporate the $500,000 contribution from ASM Global, although that's not included in the City of Lansing's contribution. We have $50,000 pursuant to our stadium agreement for capital improvements.
Excuse me, Jake, I apologize. Let me rephrase the question.
Absolutely.
Not what we have budgeted, but the actual need, similar to we know, for example, there's hundreds of millions of dollars in needs for our roads, but we don't have that type of funding in the budget. So my question was, what would the need be? Not necessarily what we're looking at budgeting. I really appreciate your explanation of saying, hey, we're going to take that extra revenue and say, let's reinvest it back into the facility. But to have a kind of a frame of reference, is $2 million over the next 5 year a lot, or do we have a $40 million capital improvement need? So that was my question, and thank you for letting me clarify.
No, absolutely, and we can send you some facility audits that have been completed in the past few years, and I believe ASM will be completing their own facility assessment once they get involved. That will have further insights based on improvements that have happened since those original audits were completed a couple years ago.
Do you have any detail this evening?
Not in front of me right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Quick question, because now it's a little bit confusing and you brought something up. Tristan, I believe you said that bringing ASM in would increase the city subsidy, and now we're hearing it's going to reduce it over 2 to 5 years. So Jake, I guess I'm confused. Is it going to increase the subsidy or is it going to reduce it?
No, President Cost, I said that it would have a decrease of the 12,358 in my first question to you.
I thought you said increase.
No, my apologies, decrease.
All right. Councilmember Sane.
Yeah, so my question actually dealt with the subsidy reduction schedule as proposed in your bid package. I know that's one of the things that set you apart from the other four responsive and responsible bidders. So because that was answered, I guess the only question that remains, the contract, we've talked a lot about the contract between LEPFA and the third-party vendor ASM. Has that actually been executed by the Board of Directors? And if not, why?
No, it has not been executed yet. It's anticipated to be executed May 20th. But to answer your question, Councilman Hussein, it was the board's due diligence to go through that contract thoroughly. And
Okay,
we've
but we
had,
do anticipate that they will approve May 20th.
yes, we do anticipate an
Okay.
approval, yes.
All right, thank you.
I've got Councilmember Brown again.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up with the employee question, because we all received those kind of concerns. Is one, what type of communication was put out to make sure this kind of, fear wasn't, I guess, exacerbated, but also in your other partnerships, when you said that you guys kind of have a strategy of looking at and reorganizing some, what was the average reduction in employees throughout, like you said, Detroit, Grand Rapids, and some of the other organizations in the Midwest that you serve?
So, Councilman Brown, if I can answer your first question about the notice. So, we received that information very short notice ourselves, so we moved or acted rather quickly. And that's when stayed late Friday night, sent out the notices, but then the following Monday, I got an emergency staff meeting together, and actually Brian was in attendance, and one of our Board of Commissioners was in attendance, and so was our legal representative, to speak to the staff, to go over any of the questions that they may have had about the letter that was sent in the mail, covering the Warren Act. And then Brian with ASM spoke to any of the questions that the staff asked, knowing that there would be some sensitivity with the staff and try to help calm things down for a little bit for them.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, just going off of that, it was, we understand that the notices kind of went out late on a Friday. We became aware of that about the same time, and so when Tristan made the decision to have the staff meeting, I asked if I could attend, which they were very supportive of. I was able to introduce myself to the staff, as well as answer a lot of the questions you might expect the staff have, talking about how the transition works and understanding what happens when a third party comes in. To answer your second question, we don't come in and intend to necessarily reduce the number of employees in a given location unless that has been like an obvious issue in the way that something's organized, where there's pretty significant over-resourcing of personnel in certain areas. It certainly will be part of our evaluation process and part of the transition. But from what I understand of how the facility is currently staffed, I don't think that's going to be your primary way of getting your efficiencies. I don't think that's what the intent was from the RFP process either. You're really looking at being able to make improvements in the facility that will drive sales, drive attendance into the building, increase the customer experience, all these things which will drive revenue, and then finding some economies of scale to be able to control some of the expenditures. Generally, in a transition, we see 95% and up of employees transition into the private management, and that 5% isn't necessarily people that aren't offered positions, but sometimes people choose not to take the position, or they have other opportunities. We have other cases when, again, depending on who the owner of the facility is or how they're structured. Sometimes they stay with, when a city directly operates something, it goes out to private management. Sometimes they choose to stay with the city and take a position in another city department or something like that. So that's what kind of makes up that gap of that percentage. Our focus is really not on, coming in to have a reduction in force. That's not our objective.
Okay, well, I greatly appreciate that explanation. That makes sense. Both of you guys indicated in my last question, thank you, Councilman Goss, excuse me, is you guys both say that you found out the notifications went out on Friday relating
Yeah.
to the employee changes?
Yes, I'm the one that sent out the notification in accordance to law with the WARN Act.
Okay.
So I'm the one that sent that out. And then I'm like, we need to have an emergency staff meeting on Monday, so
Okay, fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, do we have any further questions? I do apologize for misunderstanding you on the decrease and increase there that you stated earlier. When that notice was sent out, ASM Brian, were you notified when it was sent, or was it just sent?
Yeah, we got I know that they had to make the decision to issue the notices based on, there's a statutory timeline, and I think that kind of caught the process up a little bit. But when the notices were going out to staff, Tristan notified Jake, who notified us, and we were made aware that that notice was going out. Over the weekend or Friday, I think it went out, and then a meeting was held Monday, so I came in Monday for that meeting so I could directly answer any questions that the employees may have.
Sure, did you get prior warning, though?
No.
Okay.
Well, actually, Brian, so Harry is another gentleman that's been working with ASM Global. I actually did send Harry an email letting him know that
I think-
this went out.
Oh, yeah, on Friday, right?
Friday.
Yeah,
I
right.
So it was
notified
sent
him.
Friday?
Yes.
The same day the email went out?
Yes, so
The one we've known about for months? We knew that that was eventually gonna have to get sent with this deal, correct?
I think eventually, but as we were still working out this contractual deal between ASM, whether it was sent 30 days prior to, but yes, we had to send it 60 days notice.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I may offer something, LUPA had met with their attorney that Friday, so they'd been talking about the agreement. There was knowledge that these agreements would have to go out, but there was discussion as to, or some confusion as to the timing, would it have to go out? Like, once the agreement was signed, should they send it out even before the agreement was signed? And so I think they determined at that meeting that the 60-day notice, it would be better to operate under the contingency that everything does go in motion regardless of whether an agreement is signed, get that 60 days notice out that there's no issues. And so that was a last-minute determination that was made, not something that they had planned and withheld for a significant period of time.
Okay, and that's the problem, sending out that letter on a Friday, because as you are aware, Jake, the mayor got calls, I got calls, with very upset people that thought they were getting fired. Perhaps it shouldn't have been so rushed. I'm worried about the communication, that's going to happen. It seems like we're having an issue here between ASM and LEFA moving forward, and I am a little bit concerned about that. So Jake, my question would be, what does it look like if we don't renew LEFA moving forward?
If you, are you talking about
The contract, if we decide not to renew the contract with LEFA?
If we decide not to renew it, it continues in operation until October of 2026, after which point I think that would probably be a question of the city attorney rather than me on the spot. I'd rather let the professional speak.
City attorney?
Sure. So the current licensing and management agreement that the city has with LEFA would stay in effect through October of 2026. I'll just say the way that the ASM LEFA agreement is contemplated, ASM is contracting with LEFA, who currently holds the ability to manage and operate the city facilities in question. So I guess if that agreement between the city and LEFA were not renewed, then in October of 2026, we would be in a bit of a political situation where ASM's agreement with LEFA would kind of potentially, I don't know, become defunct. And then we would all have to figure out what's happening, who's going to actually be there managing the facilities, if that makes sense.
I mean, is that something that ASM could sign a contract with the city to do?
Conceivably, yes.
I mean, and I guess that's a question for you, Brian. I know I've seen your properties on your website, and I've been to the one in Toledo, the
yep.
arena there, which
Yep.
is beautiful. So, I mean, do you actually do full-on management in that manner?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we can be structured however, the parties want. I mean, I think the approach right now is is a partnership.
Sure.
With us working through LEFA and with the city of Lansing. And as far as communication, I can assure you that going forward, especially really the starting point of LEPFA approving the contract next week, will kind of kick off a process on our side about getting communications out to employees. Because I certainly understand that concern, how people may react to a WARN notice, which is why I think all of us made it a priority to meet with the employees immediately on Monday and spend a great deal of time taking individual questions with the staff there. I felt very strongly that following that meeting, there was a kind of a weight had been lifted from the staff, and it's understandable that there'd be some confusion about what's going to happen. And I think we're all very confident that there's really a great team of folks that are currently running these facilities, and aligned with our processes and procedures and training and some of our core skills. I think that we can really bring the facilities forward, and we're looking forward to doing that.
Great.
Yeah. Overall, if I may add to that, I would say that the proposed path forward through LEPA really provides a sense of stability and continuity as we really, ASM is not coming in with their own team who's going to replace these services. The employees will largely be current staff that are operating the facilities, who know and understand the facilities, and it'll be that knowledge base that is driving forward a lot of the operations. And so we're not looking to make any sort of abrupt cutoff of between that, or you may add to that. I saw you leaning forward there.
No, sorry, just repositioning myself, but you're correct. I mean, nobody knows these facilities better than the folks that are running them day in and day out today. So we're looking forward to working with them to be able to manage the facilities.
All right, well, I thank you. And, Jake, that decision for LEFA's continuation will obviously be left up to this council, because that's how that renewal happens.
I
So
would-
if there
if I
are no
can-
further questions, Councilman.
I will say, President Cost, based on, you're saying concerns with communication and so on and so forth, if we have went down this path with ASM and LEFA for the last year and a half, that should be a conversation that already should have been had versus having something that's been worked on so hard and, planned as a collaborative partnership, where it sounds like LEFA's providing the base foundation and ASM is providing the empowerment or the expansion growth to ignite what we have in place. It seems like a long process and a lot of effort has been in place to say, how are we going to switch that up? If it is a great benefit, we should have looked at that, just in my opinion, already. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further questions. Thank you all for being here tonight, and we will move on down our agenda. Next
Thank
up.
you.
Yes, thank you. Next up will be the union representatives' comments. I believe we have Brad and Justin from IAFF Local 421 here. We also have Heather from the Teamsters 243. If you want to come on down. Oh, I don't think your microphone's on.
Got it. My name is Heather DeHosky. I'm the business agent representing Teamsters 243. Obviously, I want to thank you for inviting us here tonight and hearing our perspective. I am the business agent. I represent a clerical, technical, professional unit and a supervisory unit throughout the city. We have O&M, wastewater, fleet, detention, civil police, clerk's office, and then we also represent the 54A District Court. And reviewed the budget, or the proposed budget, and I saw the increased number of positions for the proposed 2026 year. And it sort of sparked some concerns on my end, looking at sort of where we stand with current open positions. I reviewed the org charts that were recently presented to me from the city, and I counted 29 current vacant Teamster 243 positions. This does not include those for UAW or those in police and fire that are funded and vacant. So although I can appreciate an increase in overall positions for the proposed budget, what are we doing with these open positions? Well, and some of them have been open for years, year over year. I don't understand how that has happened or how we got to this point with so many vacant positions within the city. But I will say, I feel that we're moving in the right direction with a increase proposed, but I want to hear what is the plan for filling those vacant positions. There also is the issue of using contract employees in place of those full-time employees or funded positions. It creates a lot of uncertainty for not only those contract employees, but for your current full-time employees. What is that investment of those contract employees? What is the effect on the pension system, the health of the pension system overall? So as much as I can appreciate a lot of status quo or even an increase of labor positions, it does spark some concerns about what we have currently and how we're going to fix that problem moving forward. And then the investment in our current employees. You know, the loss of PHP was huge. Those premiums increased for our members, and minimal wage increases that aren't covering to offset those increased costs. So I would like to see some kind of investment in our current employees, those that have, you know, stood through the tough times of 2012, 13, 14, the furloughs, all of those things. They have managed to stay put. But where is that investment back in those members and those employees from our perspective?
So I'm ask both of you one big question, if you could answer, which is the current budget that we have with both the operating and the personnel. Does it provide what you both need for your staff that you represent?
At this time, the current budget it's beginning to address our staffing needs at the Lansing Fire Department, but we are so far behind. I've gave quite a few council members the brief history of where we started at the Lansing Fire Department. In 2010, we had 52 personnel on a day, and we had 9 fire stations with 4 ladder trucks, 4 ambulances, a squad truck, 2 battalion chiefs, and a safety officer. And when we went through the debt elimination of 2012 with the recession, we took major cuts, including closing of 3 fire stations, losing 2 ladder trucks, losing a battalion chief, a safety officer, and a squad. And since in 2010, we were running right around 16,769 calls. And since this deficit elimination plan from 2012, we have stayed at 41 personnel a day, from 52 to 41, but yet our call volume has gone up over 27,000 calls a year. and we have brought 0 cuts back from the deficit elimination of 2012. So and year after year after year, the budget's always been flat, and we're gonna see where we can find some money, and we are going to try and give you 1 FTE position. Just for some education to council, a body for a body doesn't mean another firefighter on a rig. It takes 3 new hires to equal 1 riding position. Our minimum staffing, that means firefighters on a rig a day, 41. We have 41 people on a day. So if we wanted to staff another ambulance, our minimum staffing would have to go to 43. And that would be 6 new hires. And I applaud council for coming and passing that resolution that we are going to start having a plan and looking to right size our department. Not only your departments, but my departments as well. What we're looking for as union and labor leadership is a long-term plan. Just some sort of long-term plan of how we are going to address this and get us back to appropriate staffing levels that covers the call volume and workload of our union members.
And I do agree with that. Again, looking back at the historical numbers and one off the top of my head, in 2010, the district court had 55 employees. They are down to 41 full-time employees. And again, the recession and the cutbacks of 2012, 2013, 2014, we have not recouped any of that. It wasn't just staffing numbers, it's the loss of the pension plan and the retirement plan and the benefits that were there. All of those things, labor took a cut to keep people working. We did furloughs, we did all of those things, and we've never been able to get back to the number of employees or the bodies that we have. And a little different than police and fire, just getting people here to do the jobs. The work is the same, right? The work of 2010 that you're asking the employees to do is the same amount of work. You're just asking them to do it with less employees year over year. So again, as I applaud the addition of some employees or labor numbers in this fiscal budget, that hasn't been the case in the last how many ever. We haven't seen a lot of changes as of late. And so I agree, we're looking for that long-term plan, or how are we going to get these numbers back to where they were? And then how are we going to fill the vacant positions that are currently funded?
Councilmember Hussein.
I'm going to ask this question of you, Mr. Duray, and I think it's a microcosm, so I'm sure your answer is very similar to what our other representatives would say. So when you look at quick math, I think it's about a 21% reduction in staff, and you look at it about a 60% increase in call volume.
Yes.
During the same time. So in any event, what is, and I think it was implied, but what has been the impact, because you've been around for a while now, what has been the impact on our frontline workers, number one, and then number two, how have you seen that impact the end user, which is the citizen of the city?
Well, as you know, as the call volume has continued to increase year after year after year, and every fiscal budget has been flat, and we got to continue to do more or less and be lean and mean and work with what we have, to the point of we have numerous of my members that are struggling with PTSD, mental health issues. Our sick leave is increasing just due to the fact that of fatigue. My members work 24-hour shifts, and sometimes they're asked to stay 24, 48, 72, up to 96 hours trying to fill overtime and call back and ride the ambulance. I want to point out that how this is not sustainable. Year 5 ambulances for the city of Lansing in 2023 ranked in the top 25 busiest ambulances in the country. And we're doing that with a handful of paramedics on each shift. And I applaud the HR department. They've been working with us in Local 421 with a continuous open posting of fully trained firefighter paramedics with a lateral transfer. We've had some success with that. I applaud Fire Administration and Chief Sturdivant for working with Local 421 and coming up with some sort of long-term plan of how we're going to address our paramedic shortage. And we've constructed some great contract language that requires that everybody that's hired by the city of Lansing from sometime last year, April of last year, will now go to paramedic school. And that's a great opportunity for not only for anyone applying, but for citizens of Lansing that want to become a firefighter. That opens so many doors, and I applaud the mayor, I applaud city administration for taking those steps. Also, we have state legislators that have passed laws for Michigan-only paramedic license. So the help is on the way, the relief is there, and we are going to be able to start teaching our own in-house once our new facility is built and the legislation and the curriculum's done for the Michigan-only paramedic license. Furthermore, but we still need to address the staffing issue because my members can't continue to keep this pace. We don't know what the breaking point is, but I know that we're in a lot worse shape from where we were in 2010 with 16,000 calls a year to 2023, 2024, we're running 27, 28,000 calls, and we're on pace to hit 29, 30,000 calls this year. So I'm happy with the steps we've taken, but we still have a lot of work to go. And I also want to applaud Chief Sturdivant for putting together a strategic plan that when he came in a few years ago, they had community stakeholders come in, and they weighed in on what they think the fire department needs. And the number one concern for the community stakeholders, the citizens of Lansing, is our staffing levels. That was number one. They want to make sure that that their fire department is adequately staffed. And it said in that strategic plan from 2025 to 2029 that by 2029 our staffing was going to reflect a staffing model that reflects the workload and the call volume of the city of Lansing. And we have done very little to up staff to get to that point. So that's why we're saying we're looking for a long-term plan of what are we going to do to fill these vacancies that you have, and that we're going to get more staffing on the roads so you can have more ambulances and a fully staffed ladder trucks and fully staffed fire trucks to go down the road so that we can protect not only ourselves but also the citizens of Lansing and keep people safe.
All right, thank you. I have Councilmember Brown.
No, thank you, President Cost. Thank you all so much for being here and really sharing it more in depth of the need and the concern. I understand. My question I know we've had meetings in the past, but just to the general public, when you say calls, 16,000 to 27,000 call volume, could you describe a little bit more in depth what each one of those calls mean?
Of course. Of course. When a call comes in, it comes from 911 call comes in, it goes into central dispatch. Central dispatch takes the caller's information, deems what type of emergency is warranted, what kind of response is warranted, whether it's just an ambulance or a fire truck, or what other piece of apparatus we might need. Then we are toned out in our stations, lights come on, alarms go off, they give us the address, the nature of the call, we jump on the rigs that they dispatch for us, and we go to that call. It can be a medical call, it can be a car accident. In my 17 years of working at Lansing Fire Department, it could be any number of things. Anything you could probably think up, it probably has happened or will happen at some point in time. So as far as like calls, and these calls take anywhere from a very quick, somebody's CO detector might be, a battery might needs to be replaced, or their smoke alarm battery might need to be replaced, up to a mass casualty scene where we have multiple victims and it's a very long drawn out process. Or if we have a house fire, that's typically, a couple hours all the way up to a big building that we could be sitting on for over 24 hours. And then in general, with transport times and patient care, with every ambulance calls, I would say on average takes anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, depending on travel time, where you're at in the city. So I have ambulances that are making 22 to 24 calls here and there. So they're making a call an hour, trying to turn over these calls, and with 5 ambulances. And every GIS study and workload study we've had done so far says that we need at least 10 to 12 ambulances to match our call volume. That's how far behind we are right now. So it's taxing for my members, but I applaud, once again, I want to applaud council for taking up this resolution and passing that, and that we're taking steps to move towards the direction of having a long-term plan to address the staffing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.
Councilmember Pelli Vonnegut.
Thank you, President Cost, and thank you for being here with us this evening. I want to switch gears for a moment and focus a bit on the clerical positions that were referenced, the supervisor unit and the 54A District Court. I think that and all of our first responders. But clerical staff in these positions are highly important. Having had personally worked in a courtroom and for a local court, I understand that if you input information incorrectly or you misplace a document, that affects a person's life. It affects, how long they're on probation. Maybe there's a stall. For a few days, they could be in limbo. And so those positions are fairly critical. You mentioned that there are 29 vacant Teamster 243 positions currently, and that some of the positions that have been filled by contract employees as opposed to hiring a full-time employee in-house. Could you just give me an example of some of those vacant positions and then maybe an example of some of the contract positions that have been filled?
Yeah, sure. So I can say that the highest volume of contract positions are in Treasury and Finance and in HR, with the hiring specialist. And although I agree that right now we need the added help within HR for the hiring specialists to be able to move forward with these positions. But in Treasury and Finance, some of those are, just your regular CSR, the counter folks, and they just sort of are filling those what should be full-time invested employees. And, honestly, when you have an employee that knows that they're going to stay in a community, they're going to stay in a position, there's a reason for them to stay, they're going to invest back in the services that they're providing to the citizens of the community. And the way to do that is offer them a reason to stay. So a full-time position, retirement, good benefits, give them that reason. And, with a contract employee, you can't blame them to be here today and gone tomorrow with no purpose or no reason for longevity. Why invest in a stepping stone position? And I think that affects all of the services that are being provided by the employees or to the citizens of Lansing.
Thank you, and I appreciate you, even making the difference between an HR contract employee, because of course they're helping us bring people in versus someone in a different type of department. So thank you for that.
And I will specifically say, I do agree with these contract employees that are for special projects that pop up. I think there was a recent scanning project of old documents, things like that. Of course, current full-time employees that already have a job to do, they don't have time for those special projects. And of course, we would be all for the support for a short time. But the ones that are causing the problem are those that are year over year over year renewed, some of them since 2015. If the work's there, hire the employee, get them here, get them in the pension plan, get them a reason to stay, the longevity that would make them invest in the city of Lansing.
Okay, thanks. I've got Councilmember Garza followed by Councilmember Brown.
All right, thank you, Council President, and thank you too for being here this evening. I appreciate you guys stepping up in your leadership roles and advocating for your members and our community as a whole. These questions, I believe, are for Jake. Jake, as you are the Chief Strategy Officer, how many, and if you don't know right now, I'd like you to get back and send it to full council, but how many of those contract positions are utilizing the full-time or the funded vacancies that we have right now?
That's not a number I have off the top of my head. It's a number we try to keep very down based on input we receive from talking with the unions, input we receive from talking with this board. We try to reduce that to what is strictly necessary, but yeah, we can talk more about that, or as we discuss our vacancy report later, circle back.
Yeah, if you could just, send us an email and let us know exactly how many of those contract positions are taking place of the funded vacant position, especially want to know if there's been some on the books for, 8 or so plus years. What's the strategy in that? And on top of that, talking about the budget, one full-time employee for the fire department, and obviously the GIS study, that was taken quite some time ago, I'm sure you're aware of. How is that a strategy of only one full-time employee? And what is your plan moving forward to try to address the needs of the staffing?
In the immediate term, we have our SAFER grant, which is providing an immediate influx of 15 firefighter positions. That's something that we hired in those folks. That's going to provide immediate capacity relief, but that's something we need to build in these positions if we want to maintain them over the next few years. Unfortunately, in the financial projections, this was not a year where we had a lot of additional money to go around to provide on a lot of different projects, and so we have $250,000 that we wanted to leave available for City Council to provide anything else, and we found room for at least one of the positions, which could fill in at least on relieving some pressure on shifts for people calling in, but certainly there is a long way to go.
Well, and I appreciate that, Jake, but, the SAFER grant, it's not guaranteed. That's a grant that potentially could go away. So what I'm looking at is an actual concrete plan to see what the city's doing with our resource that we have in place right now. And yeah, like I agree, there are some feel-good programs out there, but they're not what our taxes should be paying for, in my opinion. They should be paying for the services that we're seeing less and less of, and that is public safety, public service, our parks. We had someone speak on that earlier during public comment. So I would really like to see, a strategy coming from you, sir, of how we're gonna make those changes without depending on grants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, this is what's confusing, is you mentioned the 250,000 that was given to council just now. We run with 2 people in this office, and we're going to use our money to fill a hole in this budget to get actual firefighters, because one extra firefighter, as Brad just told us, is just, you need 3 to actually have 1. So I don't understand that logic. And it's frustrating that, I look at this budget, there's plenty of places I can find money, other than taking it away from giving City Council $250,000 to go back and fill in a department where it should have been done in the first place. That's not a strategy. And guessing every year where we're going to get it, or hoping and wishing for this grant every year, is definitely not a way to run in today's world, banking on money from any kind of government entity. And I believe, Brad, even if we were to have that with the SAFE grant, what does that really do for us? Does that bring our numbers up?
No, for the short term, it might help us for a little bit, but for that SAFER grant was put in place to help with attrition. As people retire, they're just filling in those spots. This isn't creating.
So we're not moving to 46.
No, we're not moving up.
We're just staying where we're
stagnant.
at.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
sitting
so it's really
stagnant.
not doing anything. So, Jake, I would challenge you that we need, you as CSO, I mean, this year we're gonna figure something out to at least get 3 firefighters, I think. But moving forward, what we're actually going to do is support our firefighters. Everybody talks about the police department, and that's fine, but we gotta talk about our firefighters. They're the first ones to show up and the last ones to leave. It is incredibly frustrating hearing the lack of support sometimes that y'all get. And I just get frustrated when I hear ho-hum answers, and this isn't a dig on you, Jake, but that's kind of how it felt right there. Like, well, City Council is going to spend every bit of this extra money instead of getting help that they actually need. You may as well just given that $250,000 right to the fire department, if that was going to be the plan all along, that we were going to use that money for administration, not really council money. So with that, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, President Cost. Again, thank you for being here. Jake, 243 indicated that there's been contract positions since 2015 that probably could be, invested employees. Why is that? is my first question.
I'm not sure specifically which position. I would have to check on which one is meant.
Well, as she indicated, there's several different types of positions. So
I think it would be a case-by-case basis, but if there's a specific position, we can look into that. And one thing that we've done is when we've heard about such instances, we've reached out to the department, communicated as to why these positions weren't filled, and HR has worked with them to provide a plan to resolve that, fill the position, do whatever is needed, whether it's looking at the position requirements to make sure it matches with the modern duties that they expect out of this role, taking a look at the pay levels relative to what they can get if it's been a problem with filling a position, the job description, responsibilities. But I can let HR talk about that more as when they go into vacancies later.
So you just described that there's really not an issue, and they've come and testified this evening that there is an issue. My other question would be, what is the increase in revenue for the general fund from last year to this year?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. It's in our transmittal letter.
Approximately?
Approximately 3 to 4%, I'd guess.
So how much would that be in dollars?
If you have the budget book in front of you, you can take a look at the general fund summary for revenues, and that should provide you the answer there.
Right, about how much is that?
It's in the general fund revenue summary.
I'm asking you, please.
Councilmember, we'll have to do that math and get back to you. We don't have that right now.
So it's usually, I mean, wasn't it a couple of millions of dollars?
We'll make that calculation and get back with the body.
So it's related to my question. As the chief strategy officer, and we're talking about staffing and vacancies, and not having, you stated earlier in your testimony that there's not a lot of wiggle room. If we have additional revenue, as you stated, maybe 3 or 4%, which would turn into or translate to several millions of dollars, then if we look at how we can create more invested employees and opportunity, that could be something to look at versus, as council member Cost indicated, looking at the 250,000 that was, for council to see how we can kind of address an immediate need versus being strategic.
Yep, so I have the answers in front of me. I pulled it up on my laptop. Increase from FY25 to FY26 is about 165.2 million to 173.1 million. A significant portion of that increase went towards status quo cost of the city. So we have our retirement costs, which are fixed expenses that we can't really control year to year except by making significant changes to how our plans are either administered or the benefits that we provide. There's the cost of our positions, the cost of living adjustments year over year, position reclassifications in order to meet modern job responsibilities to address the vacancy list that we've taken a look at. A lot of our positions made the pay for them much more competitive. And so overall, our budget increased in terms of revenues, but a lot of our costs increased at the same time. A lot of factors that are outside of our control. Our first priority as we went through the budget and decided what to fund this year was the council priorities that are adopted by October 1st of each year. And so we went through those. We saw what did council request, what could we provide funding to meet those requests. And we put together a proposal based on that information. And so we know that these are priorities. We want to work with you, and we're glad to reevaluate and adjust those priorities in either through the remainder of this budget process or next year, continuing based on what we agreed to prioritize as far as the city's goals and objectives.
Thank you so much. And lastly, what is the average pay increase of the contractors versus vested employees overall as you're doing the budget and having those additional costs?
I don't have that information off the top of my head. I don't budget for individual contracted positions. They're a lump sum line item, but I budget the individual bargaining agreement plans.
So is that something that you could share with all of council, kind of, these are our, contracts the last few years, and this is the increase, so we are able to compare to the invested employees' increase in cost of living adjustments and so on and so forth?
I don't know who has that information. It might be compiled in HR, but it might be something that takes a considerable amount of time looking at contract to contract. So I'm not sure if there's a single data source that might have that information, but we could look into that, and if it's readily available, provide that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any further questions? One for you, Heather. 29 openings, and I just looked on the city website. We've got 23 postings. Obviously, they all aren't Teamsters. Do you know how many of your positions that are currently open have been posted or are posted?
I do not have that number specifically because it's sort of a rolling process. And the vacancy reports that I received I believe I received those in March. I will say, I also agree that HR has been putting forth some real steps in moving with some of these positions. So I do give them credit. Recently, we just negotiated our 243 contract for the CTP and the supervisory unit, and one of the big areas of conversation that took us some time was the contract employee and the use of those, and then the open positions. And we were assured in bargaining that the focus is going to be to start a push to fill these vacant positions. And I get that it takes time, but when you have a position, and one specifically, a supervisory position was created in 2023 in parking, and it has yet to be filled. Why? And you can't really get these conclusive answers, which is the problem for, our members, that consistent, we're gonna do it, or Treasury and Finance. We had positions open. I believe an employee left, went to O&M 2 years ago. And then another employee went from Treasury to a finance position in September. That position never was posted or filled. And now, all of a sudden, we're gonna do a reorg, which then pushes it down the line of when we're gonna post and fill positions. So, I don't necessarily have specifics for you, but there's definitely that ongoing problem.
So I keep hearing staffing issues. Has anyone from the administration sat down to hear these concerns from either of you?
I can say that I've had numerous conversations with administrative staff, the mayor, and everybody, all parties involved are aware of our staffing concerns. And everyone I've spoke to has assured me that it's on their radar. They want to help in any way they can. But as my colleague right here, year after year, they say that, and then the budget's flat every single year, and we don't pick up any more staffing. We get told that, yep, this is going to be a priority, but then it gets to budget season, and it's, well, we just don't have the money this year.
In the last 6 months, when they crafted this budget, did they call either of you and say, can you come in, please, and give your input?
No.
No.
Okay.
I would say the only input that 243 has had is in recent bargaining. We definitely brought up these concerns. And then I've been working with Dennis Parker to obtain the most updated org charts so that I could compare them to past org charts that 243 had, so that we could see where are the differences, what has remained vacant. I definitely am willing to put in the work to meet with anyone to solve this problem for our members, for police, fire, for the citizens of Lansing. We all deserve to have fully staffed, locations when they come in. Treasury, Finance. you expect to receive services when you walk in there, Parks and Rec, wherever. You know, I don't think labor is against helping solve this problem.
And I appreciate that. And Jake, if you didn't know it, I'm trying to set you up on a blind date with our union friends. I think that this budget could be much, much stronger if we had all the parties at the table and got input from other folks, because it sounds like you all have a lot to say. And unfortunately, this little slice of time is what you got, and it's simply not enough. I've met with Brad. We sat for a few hours. And I was well aware of some of those issues, and I hadn't had the chance to speak to you. And so I think it's important that, we hear more than just a 15-minute time period at council at the very end of a budget. You have skin in this budget. You have skin in this budget because you're part of this community. Both of you have staff, you represent folks that care about this community, that do the work in this community, that make a difference in this community. So I appreciate both of you coming tonight. If there are no further questions, we want to thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we are on to item D, which is the budget review, budget wrap-up. And we are going to bring down discovered a little bit of an issue in the sewer portion of the budget, the sewer fee. So he is going to come down and explain this because it is a complex issue. And we appreciate you coming to do this.
No, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to Sherry and President Cost for getting this on. Discovered this afternoon, and we're able to at least to have me present this evening. So the budget assumptions that were presented included the fee increase in there, but the resolution you have for fees does not include sewer rate increases. So that was an oversight on our part, making sure that what was transmitted actually made it to council for the resolution. Historically, our sewer rate increases have been, or they've increased about 3 to 5% per year. Our proposed rate increase here is 5.5% for the fixed monthly fee and 5% for the commodity and other fees. And that's really to, our primary issues there obviously are on the capital project side, which is really CSO is our largest project, that going on for the next probably 10 to 15 years. In the range of, say, $20, $30 million a year, plus the debt service that we have to pay each year for the projects we've already done. So that's a large portion. If you look at the, call it $45-ish million budget for sewer, about half or more of that is actually in capital projects, and that will keep going on through about 2038. Then those should drop down a little bit, but the debt service will continue on for probably 20 to 30 years after that. So that's why it's essential, I think, for us to have incremental increases each year. We don't want to wait several years and then come back with a 10+% increase. We're conservative when we look at this. We probably, honestly, to have a fund that has a large fund balance, we would increase these more than a 5%, but we believe that's probably the most that is maybe acceptable. People do complain, and obviously as people's board of water and light bills go up on the electric and water side and their sewer bills go up, we're having obviously more money we're expecting from our public, but unfortunately because of our aging infrastructure, this is something we have to do. And as you all know, with the sanitary fund being an enterprise fund, the place that we have to turn for that revenue and those fees are our customers, and so it balances itself out. So I'm willing to answer any questions. Jake may have other responses, but really the budget was built on the same assumptions we build every year, and unfortunately those fees were not included when we had that resolution for the fees. So.
Do we have any questions from council? Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Council President. Thanks, Mr. Kilpatrick, for being here tonight. I didn't hear exactly what you said. You said the normal increases. Did you say 3%? What is it?
Anywhere from 3 to 5%. If we look back historically, what we've done, I'm not aware of any year when we have not proposed an increase, and they've never been significant. Well, I don't want to say that's not significant. I mean, because it does equate to several dollars per month that the average residential customer pays, and obviously commercial customers, the increase is more. But we've tried to keep them in line, maybe a little bit higher than inflation, just because our costs for construction keep going up. I mean, during the pandemic, our costs have been up 10 to 20% on our construction projects, so that equates to more need for revenues on the sewer side.
So what was the last, do you know what the last increase was? Is it every year?
Every year. I mean, I can give you what we've asked for each year, but it's been in that 3 to 5%. I think last year was about 5%. But if you want to, I can give you what the percentages and dollar increases were over the last, say, 10 years, if you'd like to look at that.
If you could send something like that on the council when you get time, I'd appreciate
Certainly.
it. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any further questions for Mr. Kilpatrick? Okay, I don't see any. I appreciate you being here. And then we are going to move to the rest of the budget review, budget wrap-up. With this item, we would need to add this into the budget. Now, this is essentially a living document at this point, the budget. It hasn't been finalized, so I think that this is something that we could add in pretty easily. Is that correct, City Attorney?
Yeah, it would be an amendment to the resolution document by the body before passage.
Okay, so we would do that next week.
Sure.
Okay. So is there any further discussion on the budget review, budget wrap-up? Okay, I don't see any, then we're gonna move on down. Item 6, which is gonna be item E, the general fund status report fiscal year 24-25, third quarter. I'm betting Jake is here to present that. And Jake, you do such a great job of explaining this. I am going to ask, for the sake of time, that we do a high-level overview. Most of us have reviewed this, and then answer questions that we may have.
That sounds excellent. I'll be cognizant of your time. Overall, the city adopted a budget of $165.2 million in total revenue after carrying forward funds, including Human Services, Charter Commission, Treasury Plan. The total budget is now $174.1. The city is currently projected to end 2025 with a $22.8 million in unrestricted fund balance, equal to about 14.2% of budgeted expenditures in compliance with city budget policies. The administration continues to monitor expenditures and seek necessary savings to maintain vital services, while also making investments in growing the city's economy and strengthening the quality of life for residents, workers, business owners, and visitors. Overall, as you look at the budget report, we have a summary of all of our revenues, our expenditures, property taxes provide the vast majority of our budget, followed by income taxes, state grants, return on equity from the Board of Water and Light. You should be seeing an agreement coming to you soon on the latter portion of it. Overall, looking into the next few years, property taxes, we're expecting to see fairly steady growth. Income taxes are the more subject to economic factors, as we frequently say. However, at this moment, growth is looking pretty well. Where previous quarters have looked a little low, we're now catching up to where we expected to be as far as those revenues, so we're looking a lot better. State revenues are getting pretty close to the end of the fiscal year, looking fairly good. Our return on equity payment is odd numbers, but exactly what we expected as this time of the year pursuant to the contract. And if you have any questions on any of the revenues or expenditures, feel free to ask.
Okay, I'll open the floor up to any questions. Okay, looks like we don't have any questions. Okay, so then I will move on to Vice President Carter.
Yes, I'm going to make a motion to place the general fund status report fiscal year 2024-2025 on file.
Okay, so we have a proper motion in place. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. And then next, we are on to item F, which is the vacancy report, fiscal year 24-25, third quarter. We have folks here, we did get a different sheet for this. It was sent to us at 3:30. We have about 30 minutes, so if you can explain the differences, we want to come on down and present, we'd be happy to get this. And good evening. Yes. If I wasn't clear, the item in the packet is different from the report that we'll be going over.
Yes, thank you, and I'm happy to provide an explanation. When reviewing, I realized that previous vacancy reports, we provided status updates. And in reviewing the documents submitted to council, that didn't have the proposed status updates on where we're at with positions. So I wanted to make sure that you had that information in front of you. I also noticed in the previous report that there were some discrepancies between the police positions. And so there was some internal positions that had already been filled, promotions had already been granted. So I wanted to make sure that that was clarified in its accuracy. So those were the major differences. You'll see the status column right next to the vacancy factor. I also wanted to provide some updates. So we currently have, we filled 42 full-time positions since January 1st of this year, 23 positions that are posted right now as of today when I left my office, probably close to 5. Those account for 52 of the vacancies included. 101 positions are currently being worked on or in some stage of the process with our hiring team. That could be from updating job descriptions to submitting reclass paperwork, to already having screening applications and going through interviews and various areas of the hiring process, including, conditional and final offers and onboarding being processed. So there's 101 positions that are currently being worked on by our hiring team. I do want to give a shout out to our hiring team because they work tirelessly and put out so much effort to make sure that there is fair, equitable, and seamless processes that withstand any kind of scrutiny. So I know time to fill is always a hot button topic, but to us, the quality of the hiring process is of paramount importance. I also wanted to mention Regina Wilson, our lead hiring manager. She's the one that coordinates our team and makes sure that they have the necessary tools that they need to fulfill their jobs. And her team has attended 13 job recruiting events since the fiscal year and will continue to be out there in the community to recruit. So I also wanted to give an update on LPD positions. So this morning, we had 25 current sworn vacancies. By 10 o'clock this morning, there were 5 people that were sworn in that just finished the academy on Friday. There are 16 in the vetting process that for the August academy. There's 3 laterals in process right now, which certifiable police officers. We have 3 projected retirements for the remainder of the year. And we're currently recruiting laterals from a neighboring jurisdiction. So that's in the works, and so there's, I think, good news on the horizon for the vacancy factor for the Lansing Police Department. Does anyone have any specific questions for me?
Open the floor to questions. Councilmember Hussein.
Yeah, so I ask all the time, I'm sorry. So I ask all the time, one of the things we know, prior to the actual posting, there's a ton of work done, and it sounds pretty complex. But annually, have always asked, are we tracking some way the time it takes from, because you said we're posting, we're screening, we're interviewing, we're testing, we're offering, we're onboarding, the time that it takes from the posting to the actual job offer.
Yes.
Because again, we continue to hear, and it might not be true, I don't know, but that our process takes longer than other jurisdictions, private sector, et cetera.
Yes. So our NeoGov platform that can track, time to fill, and it's going to depend on the specific job posting. So, I mean, when we have a police process that opens in early, I think it was February. We opened it early for an August academy. We are going to be going through that process throughout the spring. So I think depending on specific jobs, if there's a specific job that you want us to look at, we're happy to do that and track the time to fill on that.
All right, thank you. I've got Vice President Carter.
Thank you both for being here. You mentioned Regina she's been at 13 job recruiting sites. Just curious to know, where have those locations been? Is it just strictly in the city of Lansing, or is it the outskirts? I just think of just in recent news with our neighboring friends and that millage not being passed. So I'm just looking at understanding of where are we seeking and being proactive in those job recruits?
I think it's the general Lansing area, not just contained to the city of Lansing, which we do go to all, mostly all of our neighborhood events when it comes to like neighborhood resource centers and capital area Michigan Works type of events. We have the Juneteenth job fair coming up, which please come out and see us. Our hiring specialist will be there all day and willing to provide you information about our jobs. But we've also been to the Waverly Job Fair at Waverly High School. We've gone to many different areas. We visited the Parnell Vocational Village to talk to some returning citizens about city employment. So it's wherever that it's pushed out to us, that's where we go, and we also actively seek. So if you hear about things that you would like the city to be represented in, and then we're happy to attend and provide information. And I also want to note that it's not just Regina, it's her entire team. So they take multiple people that have different specialties in the different departments. So that way they get a well-rounded response and they can answer questions as needed. We've also recruited with department representatives, so that way they can know what exactly is going on in the actual day-to-day. Yes, we can provide you like the benefits and the hiring process and all the HR information, but what's it like in an actual day in the life? That's where we rely on our department partners.
All right, thank you. If there's no further questions, I would entertain a motion to place on file. Vice President Carter?
Yes, I'll make a motion to place the vacancy report fiscal year 2024-2025 third quarter on file.
Okay, proper motion in place. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. And with that, that is the close of business for us at 6:37. We are adjourned. Thank you both for coming down.